We are back talking sports and having lunch.
12 o'clock, I got lunch with Steve Russell.
The Dina Sports Talk is coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Studios.
A long, long run and a great run.
Make sure you search for Sports Scene on Facebook, YouTube, and over 30 audio platforms, including Apple and Spotify.
I've been listening to you basically since I was a little kid.
When you live in the community, be part of the community. Sports Scene with Steve Russell is something that is so iconic.
And here's your host, Steve Russell.
Hi there. Welcome to another Sports Scene podcast. I'm Steve Russell. It's brought to you by Body Armor, leading the world of sports and active hydration with game-changing innovation. Body Armor, upgrade your sports drink. We're a little old school today. We're coming to you from the road. We're on the road again. We're in Columbia, South Carolina for Gator Baseball. Jeff Cardozo and I will have the games for you tonight, tomorrow, and on Sunday as Gator Baseball continues its quest to at least qualify for regional. Right now, in just about every major publication, they are in the regional field, but they are certainly not going to be hosting anywhere from Coastal Carolina. I've seen FSU. So, we'll see what happens there. Gators softball lost to Oklahoma, a 9-inning extra inning thriller. They'll play again today. And don't forget, if you want to talk to us on Facebook or YouTube, you can do that and we'll answer your questions promptly. Our Facebook comments brought to you by Titan MRI and Imaging, now with 2 locations in Gainesville, 1 in Lake City. You can start feeling better today. It's your choice. Our YouTube sponsor is QC Kinetics. If you have joint and muscle pain, you don't need surgery, drugs, or downtime, schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. And also remember, all of our guests brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. And don't forget, as you watch live, you can listen later on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, any of the nearly 40 platforms where you can find your favorite podcasts. Like and subscribe so you can not miss an episode. And we are glad that you are here. If all goes well today, Jay Paterno is going to join us. Yes, he's kin to Joe Paterno. He'll tell you about a book he's written and his thoughts on NIL and what may happen with that, the House ruling. Also today, Bob Nightingale, USA Today Sports. We'll talk about the first month in Major League Baseball. Dick Jerardi, longtime friend of the show. We'll talk about the running of the Kentucky Derby this weekend. And Mike DiRocco from ESPN will talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, how they did in the just concluded NFL draft. Zach Rothrock is our producer today. So hopefully we'll get Jay here and talk with him as we'll begin the day by talking a little football. Our first segments will deal with college football and then pro football. By the way, Colby Shelton is not here with Gator Baseball. He's out. He'll be out for at least a couple of weeks with an injury. The Gators have been hard hit by the injury bug this year. It's been pretty tough to see. Cade Curlin's here. His arms he's got a sling on. But he made the trip. Pierce Capola is starting to throw a little bit, but I don't know if he'll be able to come back, from his injury and what that is. So we'll just have to see. But certainly, this is a series that the Gators can win. South Carolina has not been very good. They don't hit for a lot of power. They just had a bad time in terms of their coaching transition when Neary came here. They just didn't get to the portal, and they lost a lot of players and didn't replenish them with, I think, guys that were on their A list to get. They play hard. They can, everybody qualifies for the SEC tournament, which comes up. I believe it's 2 weeks from Tuesday? I think it starts in Birmingham. It's getting there. Okay, Zach, we're still waiting on Jay. I take it. All right. All right, we're going to bring Jay in here now. Um, Pleasure to have him. He's written a book called Blitzed, All Out Pressure of College Football's New Era. And it is indeed a new era. There's very little doubt about that with NIL and, kids opting to go other places, not getting paid enough, all the transfer rules. It's a different world that we live in. There's no question about that. So anxious to talk to Jay here. Monday, okay, I don't see him, Zach.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Jay, welcome. Good to have you.
Good to be here.
There he is. How you doing, Jay?
Good.
We don't yet have the final ruling on the House settlement, but let's start with that. Do you see any impediments to that going through?
Every time you say you don't think you'll see one, you see one. So, I think
True.
they're going to have to settle the roster limit number right now because, to go from 125 to 105 in football, for example, there's no roster limit, but you got to cut 20 guys loose. And I don't think that's what anybody really wants to have happen. I think one school, I think maybe Ohio State, estimated 175 student athletes would have to get cut loose. So I think that's part of it. But I think once this settlement is done, I think you're going to see a Title IX lawsuit because the previous administration in Washington, D.C., under Biden had said that this money would come under Title IX. The current guidance under Trump is that it doesn't come under Title IX. So I think we'll see some. As soon as one lawsuit's done, you'll see some more. But I think at least it's a motion towards what inevitably has to happen.
Why would anybody want to coach now, given all of this?
Well, I give you 10 million reasons for some of these guys.
That's a good point.
The reality is we've professionalized the game. I'm a trustee at Penn State, and I say to the trustees all the time, I said, let's be honest about what we are. We're running a sports entertainment enterprise on our campus. In the Big Ten, we get a $1.1 billion a year check for media rights. This is not an extracurricular activity for dear old state anymore. And the SEC is very similar.
When you look at what's happened with Iamaleava, his situation at Tennessee, you're going to start seeing more of that too, aren't you?
Yeah, I think, look, where this has to end up, and no one wants to really own up to it. And I've been radicalized. I'm an old school guy who loves the old model, but I'm also realistic in that we're asking players to do an awful lot so other people can make an awful lot of money. When you have coaches making $9.5 million, ADs making $2.5 million, coordinator, we just hired a coordinator from Ohio State. He's going to make $3.3 million a year. So at the end of the day, we got to be honest about what we are. And I think where this has to end up is it's going to be an employer-employee relationship as it relates to our athletes. And there's got to be a collective bargaining, or you'll continue to have the things that you had at Tennessee. I think that's where it has to end. No one wants to say it, but I'll say it.
Where'd you get the idea for the book?
Well, I had written a book called Hot Seat, which was when I was done coaching, I just started telling people had asked me about stories. So I started to write a book about the things I had seen in college football and what it's like. And that quickly I realized I better do it as a novel. So that was the first one called Hot Seat. And this is the follow-up to that. So it takes you through a year with a fictional coach at Ohio State. I had recruited in Ohio for 17 years, so I knew it very well. I wanted to get away from Penn State, as writing a book about Penn State. So I put it there, and it basically takes you through what is going on. This is what I call nonfiction fiction. These are real stories put in a novel setting so that I won't get my car blown up if I out somebody for something that they did. So it takes you through all the issues that coaches are dealing with right now. And it goes back to the question you just asked. When you read this, you go, oh, my God, why would anybody want to do this?
When you look now at the landscape of the sport, I think super conferences are on the way. Do you?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. Look, right now, the biggest problem in this whole thing is, and I say this as a member of the board of trustee at a Big Ten institution, the Big Ten and the SEC have gotten really greedy. They've had major advantages in terms of what's happened on the field, in terms of what they get paid for their media rights, and they've leveraged that really to set themselves apart. That's why Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA are in the Big Ten. That's why Texas and Oklahoma couldn't wait to get into the SEC because the money's so good. And so that's going to be something that's going to have to happen. And those two conferences we're really driving the bus.
I'm going to end with two last questions here. You mentioned a possible Title IX lawsuit, and I agree with you 100%. But depending on what happens with that lawsuit, Jay, I think there's going to be schools that can't afford to field as many teams as they have, and women's sports may suffer with that. Do you agree?
I completely agree. I'll just give you a quick, and these are public numbers. Penn State's athletic department the last 2 years has gotten 203 or 204 million and 206 million in revenue each year. Those 2 years we have lost about 700,000 and we made 100,000. So we don't have a lot of money laying around. And now when this $20.5 million in revenue sharing comes, you go, okay, we don't have 20.5 in our annual budget set aside for that. Where does that come from? You either cut sports or you have to start and look and say, do we really need 85 employees for our football program when there's no more people on the field than there were 20 years ago? So, I mean, throughout the history of the game, there's 11 guys in the field. So there's going to be some very hard decisions that have to be made by athletic departments because despite what everybody thinks, we're not all awash in cash. And we're in the top 10 in terms of revenues nationally in athletic departments.
The Pac-12 has been resuscitated. That surprised me a little bit. Do you think that it won't be a power league, I don't think, but do you think it will increase a little bit in stature as more teams come in?
I think it will, and I think it should. I mean, the one thing that I regret is that, there is no Pac-12 out there. And I think for all of us, whether you're in the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, Big 12, the game needs to be strong coast to coast because we need fan bases coast to coast that are interested in college football, that want to tune in and want to watch every week. And that's good for the game. And so I think I hope the Pac-12 can get something done.
Anything that you want to add, Jay?
Well, actually, since you're in Gainesville, I want to show you something.
I saw that. I did see that. Okay, now,
there's an SS on this because this was Steve Spurrier's. So, Steve, my dad and Steve made a bet before not a bet. Steve said, if I beat you, if we win this game in '97 in the Citrus Bowl, you got to put on my visor. And at the end of the game, he gave it to him. It was on Joe's bookshelf because Joe wanted another crack at him, and he never got it. But he had known Steve a long, long time, had great affinity for Steve. So when my dad passed, I got that, and it's been on my bookshelf ever since.
That's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time, Jay. Nice talking to you. Thanks for being on with us.
Nice talking to you. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Yes, sir. Jay Paterno joining us here on our Sports Scene podcast. We're going to continue with our football look here, the just completed NFL draft. Jacksonville Jaguars, how did they do? Well, we're going to tell you with Mike DiRocco joins us from ESPN, ESPN.com. That's coming up next. Stay with us.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for Core Power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
Is your bank dropping the ball, not playing with heart or skill? Then you need to check out the scouting report on Campus USA Credit Union. That's a 5-star recruit if I've ever seen one. Campus has it all, like great rates and products, friendly service, and smart game plans for you and your money. So why not put some star power in your financial life? Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Honey, can I recruit you to take the garbage out?
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Welcome back to our Sports Scene podcast. Today we are in Columbia, South Carolina. We get set for Gator baseball. Jeff Cardozo and I will have calls of the games here today, tomorrow, and Sunday as we wind down the regular season in the SEC. Our video clips brought to you by Ruse Ogre State Farm. State Farm agent Ruse Ogre is your go-to agent in Gainesville and North Central Florida for the service you deserve at the price you want. Now we go back to our Meldon Law guest video line, and good friend Mike DiRocco joins us here. He covers the Jacksonville Jaguars for ESPN, ESPN.com. Mike, I guess now, after your whirlwind, which you always go through every year of getting ready for the draft and, the aftermath of it, you get a chance to sort of, sit back a little bit. In your estimation, give me a letter grade on how you think the Jags did overall in their draft.
I think pretty much a B would cover it for me. I think the Travis Hunter move, even though they had to give up a 2026 first-round pick to get him, was pretty aggressive and sends the message that this franchise is going to be aggressive, not going to be afraid to be bold. And when they decide that they want a guy, they're going to go get it. And I think, obviously he was pretty much regarded as the most talented guy in the draft class. And to go get him and to put him on the field next to Brian Thomas Jr. or give Trevor Lawrence an additional weapon over there, I think that is a massive, massive win for this franchise. And, and they addressed some other needs, in the draft, the offensive line, secondary, which were areas that they had to fix. Didn't do anything really on the defensive line, which is, I think, still a concern for me anyway. So that pretty much, is the one knock that I would have on their draft.
What's the next personnel move now, D-Rock, when it comes to, okay, draft is over. If they wanted to address the D-line need, where would be the next place to do it?
Well, they brought in Emmanuel Agba last Monday or Sunday, which was after the draft. So they're pretty set right now. They're full at 90. And I think their plan is, I know their plan is to kind of get into OTAs, get into training camp, and kind of evaluate some of those guys. They do think that Mason Smith, who was a rookie last year, really came on at the end of the year at defensive tackle, and they think he's going to be okay. They're not sure what they're really going to get out of Devon Hamilton, really, who hasn't been the same since a back infection 2 years ago. Jordan Jefferson was a rookie last year. This is a new defensive coordinator, so you want to kind of see what they look like. You know what I mean? They may respond differently in the way they're being used. Eric Armstead, who was playing at end last year, is moving inside. So, they think they're going to get more out of him. But at this point, it's a wait and see. And then you get into camp, get into the preseason, and things don't look right. Then you start mining the other teams for guys they may cut, or take a look at the street free agents if there are any notable ones left, and then kind of go from there. But for right now, they're going to stand pat.
What differences do you see? You've been through a few changes in with the Jags over the years.
Yes,
what
yes,
changes? I was thinking about that. It was weird. When I called you, I thought, man, he actually seen a lot in his time there. What are some changes that you see, if any, right away with this different coaching staff and regime?
The thing that stands out is the inexperience of it. Liam Cohen's never been a head coach. The offensive coordinator, who's not going to call plays, never been a coordinator. Defensive coordinator, first time defensive coordinator. But they've got a good mix of young guys, and they've got and some older guys as well. But we're not going to really get a chance to see them really on the field for another couple of weeks and how they approach these guys and how they deal with it. But I like what I've heard from them, just from the standpoint of, hey, look, what's worked before really hasn't worked. They're going to be different. You know what I mean? They're going to emphasize the run game to a significant degree. I mean, we all saw what Liam Cohen did with the Bucs last year. He came in, they were last in the NFL in rushing, and then they finished fourth last year. I don't know where the talent level is here. I think it's a better team than what 4-13. They were 4-13 last year. I think they're a better team than that, but I still don't know how much of a better team they are, to be honest with you. But I like their approach. Look, it's what Shad Khan did was different. You know what I mean? He didn't go get a retread, which he's done before. He went and got the hot coordinator, and he got the hot GM who's coming over from the Ram system, which is a little bit different in the way they handle the draft and stuff. So I just applaud them for trying something different, because when you keep doing the same thing that hasn't worked before for you, it makes no sense to continue to do it. So they go ahead and try this new approach with the young guy. It seems like, I don't want to say like a new agey approach, but certainly it's a little bit more touchy-feely, I guess, in Liam Cohen's approach than maybe what you would probably be used to around here. He, talks about the power touch, a study done at Cal Berkeley, and how that impacts players and the team and the morale and stuff. So you're going to see some of that. But bottom line is, you got to get on the field, and Trevor Lawrence has got to be better, or none of it's going to matter.
I come with a fan base that has not seen a lot of success with the team that I have rooted for a long time. In your estimation, where is Jacksonville's fan base right now?
Fed up. I think from one standpoint, there hasn't been sustained success here since 96 to 99. I mean, they've only had winning seasons in back-to-back years twice. They've not made the playoffs in back-to-back years, and just 4 playoff appearances since 99. They're hungry for some kind of sustained success. They thought they had it with Doug Peterson. Clearly, that's not it. But I'll say this about this fan base. They are dedicated and loyal. They take a beating nationally, and they are some of the most, I compare them to Gator fans. Gator fans are unbelievably loyal. They can be, as you know, they can be cranky, they can be ornery, they can be pains in the rear end, but there is no more loyal fan base than the Gator fan base. And that's what I sense here with the Jags. There's also this level of excitement now, even more so than when they hired Doug Peterson, who won a Super Bowl, because, hey, man, Travis Hunter's here. That is star power this franchise hasn't had in a long time. Back to 2021, when Urban was here and they drafted Trevor, that was probably the last time that they've had it. And this might even surpass that, because Travis Hunter is going to play both ways. There is no doubt about it. The Jags haven't hid that at all. And nobody's done that in the NFL on a consistent basis for a while. So there's so much excitement. The new stadium's going to be here. It opened in 2028. So there's some excitement about that. But there's just this undercurrent of, we're fed up. It's time for this thing to start working. But if it doesn't, I still think that they'll be around. They're like I said, they're a dedicated group.
Mike DiRocco joining us here talking Jacksonville Jaguars. He covers them for ESPN, ESPN.com. 2 last things. Where is Trevor Lawrence's health right now?
Good shape. He's done some throwing in the off-season program. Middle of May is when the OTAs start. So he's going to be on a little bit of a pitch count in terms of how much he throws. But, it was the left shoulder that he hurt, had the surgery on. The right one's fine. They just want to kind of limit the beating he's going to take. But all reports I have is that he's fine, and he will be fine for the start of training camp with no limitations. They just want to be a little smart with him at this point in the process.
Last thing, I understand when a coach gets hired, most players don't say, that guy sucks, I don't want him as my coach. Or most guys don't go, hooray, So, but can you gauge a little bit of what you think the players thought of Cohen's hire?
Yeah, there's obviously a little bit of skepticism because he hasn't done it before. And I think he's never been a head coach on any level. He's not stayed at a place longer than 3 years at any stop in his career there. But these guys all know guys in the league. It's a giant fraternity. So those guys talk to some of these guys. And the people in Tampa loved Liam Cohen. He's only there for the 1 year, but the people loved him. Baker Mayfield really, really loved him. He and Trevor Lawrence have spoken. He says the things that they want to hear, to be honest with you, in terms of being a tougher team, physically and mentally tougher. That's not what this franchise was the last 2 years. And they, in the locker room, they all know it. So hearing that, hearing the commitment to the run game, seeing the way that he genuinely is interacting with these guys. I've talked to some people in the building, and you know how sometimes you meet some people and you're like, man, is he really that nice? Or is it just more of an act? Like he says a lot of stuff and you're like, huh, but there's a genuine, there were some questions about that, but there's a genuine feeling now that this guy is not a phony. They care. He cares about them. He's a little bit kind of, we all saw that first Duval. So, you could kind of say he's got a little goofy in him, but in a good way, I guess. So, positive so far. But again, what's it going to be like in October when you're 1-4, if that's the case? Then we kind of find out what we find out what he's made of and what these players are made of.
As always, where can people see your work?
Yeah, you can find me on X or whatever the hell they're calling it now at ESPN DIROCCO. And if you go to ESPN.com, you can find, click on the NFL page, and my stuff will all be there.
And those things change a lot here.
Yeah, I don't know anymore, whatever it is. I still call it Twitter, and people get mad at me when I say Twitter, and I'm like, what are they called? Still tweets, or are they X's? I don't even.
See, that's a good point. See, good point. Always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Steve. Have a good weekend.
Same to you, D-Rock. Mike DiRocco joining us here talking about the Jaguars. Well, the Kentucky Derby is going to be run this week. I think it's the 120th or something like that. Old friend of the show, Dick Jerardi, scheduled to join us to talk about that next. Stay with us on our Sports Scene podcast today in Columbia, South Carolina.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
You might know that State Farm agent Ruz Agra has great service. He's your good neighbor after all, but did you know that State Farm has surprisingly good rates too? Yep, that's right. Along with good neighbor service, State Farm agent Ruz Agra has surprisingly great rates for everyone in Gainesville and North Central Florida. So call State Farm agent Ruz Agra at 352-240-1779 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Welcome back to our Sports Scene podcast, brought to you by Body Armor, leading the world of sports and active hydration with game-changing innovation. Body Armor. Make sure to upgrade your sports drink. Our gold sponsor is Campus USA Credit Union, putting star power to work in the financial life for over 90 years. Campus USA Credit Union. If you have a Facebook comment, they're sponsored by Titan MRI and Imaging, now with 2 locations in Gainesville, 1 in Lake City. Start feeling better today. It is your choice. And of course, all of our guests sponsored by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. And if you have a question on YouTube or a comment on YouTube, they're brought to you by QC Kinetics. If you have joint or muscle pain, you don't need surgery, drugs, or downtime, schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. And our video clips, always brought to you by Ruz Agra State Farm. State Farm agent Ruz Agra is your go-to agent in Gainesville and North Central Florida for the service you deserve at the price you want. Well, if you listen to Sports Scene over the years, my next guest was on with us quite a bit, and he has really helped educate me in terms of what goes on in the sport of horse racing. And Dick Jerardi is going to join us here, courtesy of betonline.ag. You can check it out, for the most up-to-date odds. And also, we'll talk about the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby when he joins us. And he hopefully will join us here very, very soon. Monday on the program, I'll give you a quick sneak peek of that as we bring you Sports Scene at noon on Monday. Jenny Carlson's scheduled to join us. She works at the Oklahoman. She will help preview the SEC softball tournament. The Gators playing Oklahoma right now in softball. In Gainesville, lost the opener in 9 innings, extra innings. One of my former students, always glad to have them back. Savannah Collins is going to talk to you. She's working at ESPN. There's a new softball league. Some Gator players are going to be in. She will tell you about that. And I've been trying to get around to Gator football opponents for the upcoming year in the SEC and kind of give you a preview from their perspective, people who cover the sports there. And Scott Rabelais, friend of the show, works for the Baton Rouge Advocate, will join us to talk about LSU football. And then Joe Healy from D1 Baseball will join us to give us the latest on regionals, who's in, who's out, as the regular season begins to wind down in college baseball. So that's going to be what we have scheduled for you on Monday on the program. All right, we're still waiting on Dick, I think. Hopefully we will get him. We hope to end the show today by talking with Bob Nightingale from USA Today. It's already been a month the Major League Baseball season has started. Once it starts, man, it goes quickly. And before I forget, I don't get to do this a lot, but my Knicks win, beat the Pistons. And Jalen Brunson is unbelievable. Dropped 40 last night. The Pistons, though, are an up-and-coming team. But now my Knicks have to face Boston. And Boston owned the Knicks in the regular season. And I fear they will own the Knicks in the postseason. But, hey, we'll see. At least the Knicks are there. But they were not competitive against Boston at all in the regular year. And of course, Al Horford still with the Celtics. So, we'll see what happens there. But, I'm hopeful. I really want the Knicks to do well, but I just don't see them getting past Boston. Lakers going out. Dallas's owner took a lot of heat for trading Luka Doncic. I get it. But he was horrible in the playoffs defensively. Guys blew by him. And if you remember, when Dallas traded him, one of the things that I think happened is on the defensive end. I mean, it was pretty evident of what was going to happen there. So anyway, we'll see what happens there. I hope we get Dick, but if not, we will move on. We'll take a break. We'll come back, and hopefully we get him on the other side, and hopefully Bob Nightingale will join us here. Today we're in Columbia, South Carolina, as we're getting you ready for Gator Baseball and their weekend series here in Columbia. Stay with us.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for Core Power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you. Contact local agent Rus Ogra for your personal price plan today.
All right. It looks like we're not going to get Dick, and I'm sorry about that because he is really knowledgeable, and I always enjoy talking to him. But I can quickly tell you there were 20 horses in the field. There's now 19 because there was a scratch. And believe it or not, the odds favorite in the race, you know what the horse's name is? Journalism. How about that? 3-1 is journalism. And look for Post 5. Post 5 has had the most Kentucky Derby winners. 10. Yeah, I didn't know that. Post 5. This horse sold for only $2,500. That's it. $2,500, and this horse is in the Kentucky Derby. And Bob Baffert is back after being banned for a while. So there you go. We'll see what happens. I've always said this. One of my bucket list things to do, if I couldn't, but if I could ever do it, would be to call a Kentucky Derby race. That would be so much fun to do. I'll never get a chance to do it, but one can always dream. A couple times, though, in watching that, I've had the field of horses in front of me, and to the best I could, I would call the race. Watching it on television, and NBC, I believe, is carrying it again this year. So that was kind of interesting in trying to do that. All right, Zach, let's go ahead and try to get Bob Nightingale on with us from USA Today, and that'll hopefully end our program today. And again, I want to thank all of our sponsors here, our gold sponsor, Campus USA Credit Union, putting star power to work in your financial life for over 90 years, Campus USA Credit Union. Our Facebook comment sponsor, Titan MRI and Imaging, 2 locations in Gainesville, 1 in Lake City. Meldon Law sponsors all the guests we get here on the program. Your YouTube comments brought to you by QC Kinetics, and our video clips of the day that you see here, all brought to you by Rus Ogra, State Farm Insurance. And I want a special thanks to Body Armor. When we do our show locally, it comes to you from the Body Armor podcast studio in Gainesville. And make sure to upgrade your sports drink with Body Armor. And remember, you can watch us live on Facebook and YouTube, listen later on Apple Podcast, YouTube Podcast, any of the nearly 40 platforms you can find your favorite podcast. Like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And we appreciate you tuning in when you do. While we wait here, I hope for Bob, quickly here on the series tonight. Look, Florida is playing arguably its best baseball in terms of the SEC right now. And going to Texas next week is going to be no picnic. Texas is really good. And then you end with an Alabama team that is good, is capable. Could they take 2 out of 3 against Florida? Sure, they could. Florida could also do the same. But unless Florida goes crazy here and, doesn't lose another game in the SEC, if they get to a regional, they're probably going to be on the road. That's just how it is. That's what the poor league start did in terms of derailing a chance for the Gators to get, to host at least a regional, if not a super regional. But look, We saw what happened last year. Get in the field, get hot at the right time. You never know what can happen. So that's the hope here, and we'll see if it transpires as far as that is concerned. I mentioned Gator softball with their loss to Oklahoma yesterday. I have not done the math, but I don't think they're eliminated, but that really puts a dent in Florida finishing in the top four in the SEC to get a double bye for the upcoming SEC tournament. I also want to congratulate Gator men's golf, J.C. Deacon's team winning the SEC. They're going to get to a regional. Gator men's tennis, I believe, plays South Florida in NCAA tournament match. And Gator lacrosse is having a whale of a season, doing a lot of damage in the Big 12, and they're getting ready for more postseason play. So a lot of these teams now, of course, track still going on as well. They'll be winding down a little bit later, as they always do. But they hopefully will be putting themselves in position to have a good year as well. All right. Do we have Bob? Okay. All right. We're going to bring Bob in here to wrap up our road sports scene today from Columbia, South Carolina. And we're back in studio on Monday and look forward to that. All right. Bob joins us now from USA Today to talk about the first month of Major League Baseball. Bob, always a pleasure to have you back. Tell me a team or two you're surprised at the first month that's done well, a team or two that you thought would do better and hasn't so far.
Certainly the Athletics of Sacramento. Right now, they've been in the playoffs and the season ended. So 2 games over 500, just beat Texas Rangers 3 out of 4. Great pitching. Their 3 wins, they allowed a total of 2 runs. In San Francisco, although I think they're going to fade a little bit, but the Giants have played better than I thought it'd be a 500 team, and they played awfully well. But now they're starting to hit a little bit of a slide here. But those 2 teams probably jump out the most. I think the Cubs are a pleasant surprise, do as well as they have. And certainly Detroit Tigers being the first AL team to hit 20 wins.
Detroit, you could kind of see last year getting to the playoffs, an up-and-coming team. What makes them good?
Yeah, just they get that confidence. Young guys are stepping up. Javi Baez is finally playing like they envisioned all along. Spencer Torkelson had been a big disappointment. Now he's having a breakthrough year. Just a lot of young energy there, and of course, when you have the best pitcher in baseball, Scooble, it certainly helps.
There's some franchises, Colorado. They spend money, but it doesn't seem the money they spend does any good for them. What's wrong with that franchise?
And when you think about it, drafting as high as they have year after year, they should have a lot more prospects. They don't. The Dodgers draft low every year, and they always seem to come up with studs. So it seems like they're getting the wrong guys, or maybe they're not developing right. Something's wrong there. Now they got the Dolliner kid from Tennessee. He's pitched very well for them so far. But, yeah, they should have done a better job drafting over the years, particularly in drafting among the top 5 picks year after year.
At the end of the year, Bob, will they threaten the White Sox?
I think they will. The White Sox dumped at the trade deadline. I'm not sure how much the Rockies have to dump. I don't know if they will. But the difference is the White Sox are in a very mediocre division. They're in the Rockies in the toughest division in all of baseball. So yeah, I think they will threaten the record. They really do.
Wow. I want to ask about Aaron Judge, Bob, because when you say Aaron Judge, what I'm going to say at first blush doesn't make sense. I'll admit. Aaron Judge playing in a big city and playing for the Yankees, and yet I think sometimes he's underappreciated. What he's doing when he's healthy is incredible. Is he underappreciated a little bit?
I think so. I mean, here's a guy making half as much as Juan Soto. I'll take Aaron Judge over Soto any day. No, unbelievable talent. And as good as he is on the field, Steve, he's even nicer off the field. One of the nicest guys you'll meet in life. And be the face of that franchise is perfect. Just a model citizen. Always does the right things, says the right things. Great clubhouse leader. But yeah, I mean, a fun guy to root for, really is.
I want to ask you, as somebody who's covered the sport for a long time and doing it for USA Today, if I'm an owner of a team, obviously I'm going to care about my team. But a franchise like the Pirates, a franchise like the Rockies, a franchise like the A's, although the A's are better, as you said. I mean, the Pirates have Paul Skeens, and yet a lot of their core isn't younger, it's older, and they're not good. Do the owners ever say anything to other owners, or is that just taboo and left alone?
No, they discuss it among themselves. Like, wait a minute now, the Pirates are making a killing financially because they're not spending. I mean, they're making as much money revenue sharing as they are with the payroll. So everything else is a profit. But yeah, you haven't signed a guy to a multi-year contract since 2016. That just got the best young starting rotation in the NL Central, and they haven't capitalized on it. So yeah, owners talk about that for sure. It's like, wait a minute now, why are we just throwing money toward the Pirates when they're not spending it themselves?
For the years you've covered the sport, look, baseball is not America's pastime anymore, as it was when I was a kid. It's not. In your view, Bob, what is the state of Major League Baseball? Is it in a good place?
Yeah, it's not a very good place, financially, attendance-wise. You saw where April was their best attendance since 2017, and that's playing with two minor league ballparks, in Tampa and Sacramento. So, yeah, ratings have been good. So financially, everything else, baseball is in a good place. But you're right, Steve. I mean, it's, I've never seen a bigger disparity between the NFL and baseball as far as popularity. I mean, as soon as they start, doing practices in July, that's big headline news in NFL. The draft, obviously, free agency, but just everything blows away every other sport, particularly baseball.
Last question, because you mentioned the Rays. I don't see a new stadium going there. So two-part question. Do you see a new stadium in that area? If not, will the franchise move?
I don't think they'll move out of the area, or at least out of Florida. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the people that live there say it'll never work in St. Pete. Just too tough to get over the bridge and traffic. It should be in the Tampa side. So I think the Tampa side, I think, might be fine. It's there's only 10,000 seats, but they've sold out, all but one game so far. Could they move to Orlando? That would make sense too. But remember now, the owners want to keep some of these cities alive for expansion because you're going to get about $2.1 billion expansion fees. So that's 4.2 divided among the 30 owners. So they can't move to Nashville. Maybe they could move to Charlotte one day. They're not going to move to Salt Lake because they got that team there. They had a deal in Montreal. Maybe then I think baseball will let them go because baseball would love to have a second team in Canada. Just nobody has stepped forward in Montreal and want to build a new stadium.
All right. Want to see what happens the rest of the year here. As I always ask, Bob, where can people see your work?
Yeah, just on usatoday.com, and usually I'll tweet out my stories at B Nightingale on X.
Thanks for taking the time, Bob. Appreciate you.
Take care, Steve.
You got it. All right. Bob Nightingale talking first month of Major League Baseball. We'll take a break, wrap up our Sports Scene podcast for today. Stay with us.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for Core Power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Roos Ogra for your personal price plan today.
All right, that's going to about do it for our Sports Scene podcast for today in Columbia, South Carolina. Don't forget, we'll have Jeff and I'll have the call of the baseball games here today, tomorrow afternoon, Sunday afternoon, as the regular season is rapidly winding down in the SEC. As I mentioned, softball will start the SEC tournament.